All right, so now we're live. Hey guys, this is the ANBM podcast. This is Paul, and I'm here with the mods, Frank, Gary.
Oh, so as you all know, ANBM exists to empower our community against sexism, racism, and bigotry. We serve as an open platform for people to have candid and open, honest discussions about politics, contemporary culture, media portrayal, and activism. We like to generate like a forum for people to actually come and talk about what they feel, and that way we can have a very honest conversation. We value some free speech, education, empowerment, and activism.
Right, so this is Gary. So just a brief history of the group. We've been present for the past 10, 11 years. It was public, but we closed it off due to some troll attacks or whatnot. But the point of the group, in my opinion, is to have a forum in which people can have uncensored discussions. We as mods, we rarely censor people, and that's basically the point of the group. I think if you look anywhere else online, Reddit, Facebook, a lot of it, a lot of the discussions are censored. People aren't free to say whatever they want, and that's what we don't want. And so we typically like to keep it open. Yes, some people say perhaps some extreme things. But I think it's important to have a viewpoint from all perspectives in the Asian American community. Not just one perspective, which is what we usually see in mainstream media.
Yeah, and building on what Gary is saying, I personally generally have like a majority rule where if we both agree on the majority of issues, then I'm not going to burn bridges just because we don't agree 100% ideologically. A lot of what the community seems to forget is that even though we argue amongst each other, we still strive towards a common goal. There are a lot of Asian American empowerment groups that, disagree with each other. It's really just minor disagreements based on methods, and they all have their own brand of unique activism and methodologies. But in the end of the day, we're all on the same page. We're all for the same side. Sometimes people just have different personalities, and they bring different things to the table. What we like to focus on is a more hands-off approach. Have people come and talk. We don't really like to have that the type of forum where people are afraid to say what they want to say, or afraid to discuss things because it's not discussed, or people just generally. Anyways, we just want to encourage and support everybody who wants to help our community, and we just want a better world for our brothers and sisters. What about you, John?
Yeah, I really like the conversation and the discussion that goes on. So it's important to lay things out, and in the world that we live in right now, it's I think there's not a better time to talk about topics of politics or identity or media, for example. So yeah, I stick around for the conversation. I really enjoy these discussions, and I appreciate the honesty. I think that there is a lot of honest dialogue going on, and these are conversations that we need to have. So I'm really thankful for that. So it's good to have you guys here, and we can have this discussion here. And yeah, I'm really excited about what comes out of this talk.
Right on. How about you, Paul? Paul?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. What do you think of the group?
I think it's a great group. We just talk about like whatever like is whatever um matters to the Asian community, and some discussions that you don't really see or hear in other places. But and sometimes it gets a little wild, it gets a little crazy. But at the same time, some of these things are very real to some people. They have like it's very it's there's some real concerns there. There's like some real issues, and it's kind of worth looking into. It's kind of worth talking about. Yep.
Yeah. So we have a lot of discussions in our group that are controversial. To be honest, a lot of them are actually pretty hilarious as well. And so a lot of the reason why people stay in the group, I think, is also because it's a form of entertainment for some people. They go into the group when they're having a crappy day and they read some stuff that cracks them up, and it brightens their day or whatnot. So it's like my idea of having the group around isn't just to like discuss serious topics all the time. It's to also have like kind of a light atmosphere where we can, again, to be free to discuss whatever. We can joke around. We can, just shoot the shit and have fun. So that's my vision for the group as well.
Yeah, and I'll add, we definitely aggregate a lot of Asian-related news as well too. So I mean, there's so much news going on, and nowadays it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that's Asian focused as well too. 10 years ago, you wouldn't really have this as much. You have to dig to find anything related to Asians or Asian Americans. Nowadays, there's, in my opinion, too much material to kind of filter through. So we definitely try to aggregate content, news articles that pertain to Asian and Asian-related issues. And so like what you were saying, Gary, about how people come on there for entertainment, they also come on there for news and or just kind of staying, in touch with what's happening in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else?
So why don't we go ahead and talk about, the recent media phenomenons, Crazy Rich Asians and Searching. I'm sure everybody's already seen those by now. Everybody's very, excited about the representation that we've been getting. It's hardly been. When was the last time there was a film with an all Asian cast?
Yeah, I can't think of one.
Yeah.
Obviously, the last one I think was Joy Luck Club from 25 years ago, and it seems like a lot of people have issues with that film as far as its portrayal of Asian American males, and so I think from my point of view, Crazy Rich Asians and Searching were much better portrayals of the entire Asian American community as a whole. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I would say so. A lot of people, they're critical of the film because of the ethnicity of certain characters. However, just give it some slack, let it go. It's a good step in the right direction. And this is the same thing with what happened on, Fresh Off the Boat, is that too many people are too critical of minor things that happen within the movie, or the show actually, that made it very unsuccessful.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I mean, I wouldn't say that was the only reason that the show was unsuccessful. I used to watch the show also, and I kind of fell off of it, or I didn't really watch it like as much. Maybe like the second season. I definitely watched the first season, but I didn't feel like super inclined to see the second season. I guess the hype died down, or I don't know, for whatever reason. Um, for whatever reason, I just didn't feel like watching the show for I don't know why, but I mean it was all right. Like it was a good show. Like the first season,
Which show are we talking about?
Fresh Off the Boat.
Ah.
Fresh Off the Boat. I compared, my comparison was Fresh Off the Boat is like Panda Express, and Crazy Rich Asians is like P.F. Chang's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like 100% authentic Asian food, but then again, like, Americans still love it anyway. You know, like, it's still, it's all right. Like, it's not like.
Well, see, that's the thing about it. It's like they were expecting it to be such a giant flagship that they wanted to include everything to please everybody. But obviously, you can't please everybody. You know,
No,
you can't. Of course, there are going to be people critical of the film, wanting it to do better. But generally, if the film is good, just support it. You know, if you don't support it because it's not up to a certain, arbitrary standard, it's very hard to please everybody. And that's how you get a storyline that's very bland, that's off topic, that doesn't really sell. It's because they're trying to check all these boxes and they're not trying to progress with the story as a whole. You understand my point?
Okay, so there was an article I remember. There was an article I remember, and it was so a lot of guys were criticizing, Crazy Rich Asians, right? I guess you could say like on the center from the right, like some of the guys in the group were criticizing it for whatever reason, okay? But what's even more interesting is that, the left, the far left, the progressive Asians were also criticizing it, because one lady was like, it's not subversive enough. It's not social justice-y enough. It's not, it's about like rich people. Like this is like, for whatever reasons that they had, like, it's a rom-com, guys. It's a rom-com. And I guess people were expecting it to be, I don't know, like a Hong Kong action flick, or they were expecting it to be like some super subversive, like groundbreaking movie, like, I don't know. And like people were like assigning it all these things and all these values and all these ideas and all these expectations, when in reality, Crazy Rich Asians is just a fun summertime rom-com chick flick.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's just, you got to set your expectations to the movie. Did the movie deliver a good storyline? Which it did. It was an amazing storyline. It did well, not because of the Asian representation, so to speak. I mean, it certainly helped a lot, but what it did well was on its own merit as a story, as a movie. The Asianness of it came out as secondary. We didn't force the Asianness onto the public. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was just kind of part of the movie, but not the selling point. It was more natural that way.
It depends on the crowd. Like I talk to people who they don't like chick flicks and they didn't like the movie, right? But for most people that like chick flicks and rom-coms, things like that, a lot of them liked it. A lot of them thought it was good, but there's some people, like all the girls, like I asked them and they're like, oh no, I didn't really like it. And I asked them why, and it's because it's not really my thing. I'm not into chick flicks. I'm more into like psychological thrillers or whatever genres, but chick flicks aren't my thing, or rom-coms aren't my thing, and that's completely understandable, And it was a good plot. It was a good storyline. It was a good story for a chick flick. I'll give it that.
No, I mean, I found it, you can't over expect what it is. It is from this genre, and I see what you're saying. And I feel like a lot of the criticism that a lot of people throw at it is because they expect it to be something it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know what? One guy, one observation I remember was that someone was saying that CRA, Crazy Rich Asians, it felt like a Korean drama, but like in English.
Well, I mean, I watch
that's what they were saying.
But I mean, you could say it fits the mold of any drama, not just Koreans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of.
I mean, I don't watch American drama.
I mean, it's kind of like a Cinderella story, kind of like Cinderella.
how does it compare to Cinderella? Because it's like oh, okay, so I see what you're saying. It's like the prince. There's the prince, and then there's the poor girl. Poor girl meets prince, right? Something like that, and it's like a love, and it's like that love story of how they got together. Is that what you mean? Is that how it compares to Cinderella?
Right. Basically, the female character is not a part of the upper class, and then she feels set apart because of that. But in Cinderella, she was kind of like the not popular sister, and she wasn't allowed to go to the ball and all this other stuff. And then in Crazy Rich Asians, Constance Wu's character was kind of like her, so she said that, I'm not a part of this family. I'm not a part of, the really rich people in Singapore. So, I mean, there is that similarity. Obviously, there's differences, but I think that kind of, was a core part of the plot. So, and I'll admit that, part of the criticism of Crazy Rich Asians, I think, is just some people just weren't a fan of romantic dramas, romantic comedies, which I think leads into our other big movie, which is Searching. So some people were like, oh, like I prefer Searching better because this is more of my thing. It's a thriller, it's a mystery.
Right on.
Whole movie is taught from the perspective of webcams, right? So
I actually kind of found that annoying.
But I think it's great. Pardon?
I actually kind of found that annoying.
Oh,
wait,
the webcam thing.
Let's let John finish real quick. Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, like two good movies, two different genres. I'm very happy that we can talk about both. I'm really happy that I got to see both, and within a couple of weeks of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So my point of view is that Searching and Crazy Rich Asians are groundbreaking films for Asian Americans. As Frank mentioned before, we haven't had an Asian American, like an all Asian American cast in the past 25 years. And, one of the biggest reasons for why studio executives didn't want Asian Americans leads is because, we were not bankable. Like, people aren't going to watch movies with us as leads. And as of now, this is like week 4, I think, of Crazy Rich Asians. And hey, Paul, I think there's some, like, I'm not sure what that noise is, but
what?
No. I don't know. I thought I heard some. Anyways, sorry. But fine. One of the reasons why. One of the reasons.
Mute button, Paul.
All right, it's fine. One of the reasons why it's such a big deal is because this is a week 4 of Crazy Rich Asians, and they've made approximately $150 million, which is huge. Their budget was only $30 million, so they've made 5 times their budget. And as a result of this, from what I've read, studios have greenlit other Asian American projects. So, while it's not a perfect story, I saw, there were a lot of issues. Some people were concerned that the main lead is only half Asian and, not Chinese, whatever. Regardless, the fact that this came out with Asian, cast members, it puts our foot in the door. And as a result of this, I really hope, we see more Asian American faces in the media, TV shows, movies, or whatnot. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Someone was, I don't know, because somebody was saying, that's like the positive thing, right? But there's been news going around with people saying, oh, maybe this might open the door for a second or a sequel to Joy Luck Club. That's the speculation. Like, people are like, oh, we should bring it back. I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning.
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mhm.
hope that because there were Asian American male leads in Crazy Rich Asians, and obviously Searching, like the lead is like an Asian American male, because of those two things, and that they're both bankable films, that they're not going to they're not going to make Asian guys look bad. Hopefully, I mean that's what I hope's going to happen. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, I like both films a lot, but I also like the fact that you could have taken the Asianness out of the film and it would have just been as good of a story as it would be, even if you put Asian people in it. Because that's how you show people that Asian people can act on their own merit without making the movie about Asian people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like Searching, John Cho and his daughter, it could have been any family, but they were able to act through it, get the people into it, and convey the same emotion and the same message without having to say, oh, them being Korean was a very big thing, right? I mean, I remember there was like a little the scene where they were making Korean gumbo, you know, but that could have been anything. It's a very positive step. I feel like it's like it integrates Asian Americans into American society instead of saying, "Oh, we're Asian, we have to have our own separate thing." But from having movies that don't highlight too much of our Asianness, but having Asian American portrayal, I feel like it's a really great way to become more integrated into American society.
I have my own criticisms about Searching. I don't know if you guys ever read my post in the group about that. I was saying that Crazy Rich Asians was better than Searching. Prove me wrong, you know. And I don't know, like it's.
No,
I
I
think
feel
the
what you're
reason,
saying. I feel what you're
huh?
saying.
Yeah,
Oh
but
no, I
did you
feel
see?
what you.
Yeah, did you see my comments about that though? Like, I basically my contention was that like it perpetuates this you know the what do you call it, the oppressive Asian patriarchy. Like, cause that's like a really common narrative is the you know teenage girl, Asian teenager, runs away from dad because he's too oppressive. You know, because he's a tiger parenting Asian tiger parent, and that's why she's running away or whatever. Like that's always it's like a plot, or it's like an overdone narrative, right? In like on TV, I feel like I don't know what you guys think of that.
Well, um, I mean, I watched it like yesterday. To me, I don't think the point was that John was a overbearing father. I think the point was that she was tricked into uh, doing things that she wouldn't normally do because she wasn't running away. She was she was smoking weed with the uncle, right? And then she went to the spot where she hangs out all the time, which is the lake, and she was followed there by some kid who was trying to pay her back some money that she donated to him. Are you familiar with the story, Paul?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're
It's
you're right.
because she was being like catfished by some person because that person wanted to be just to be your friend because apparently the person didn't have any skills to make friends with her in real life. So she like they were talking about how both their mothers have cancer, and then she felt sorry for this person and then gave this person like $2,500, which this person tried to come back at the end of the movie to pay her back because they were just it was he was making up the stories. So it wasn't John being an overbearing father. It was just.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and
But
that's a major spoiler. If anyone's watching this podcast, he's like spoiled Searching for it. Sorry, guys.
Well, I mean, why would you tell everybody that it's like an overbearing patriarchal character when it's not? Okay.
I'm
Anyway,
gonna have to put
but
a warning in the description.
oh shit! But the film.
Spoilers.
The film is definitely not as good as Crazy Rich Asians because they originally intended that to be a short story, like a YouTube film. They didn't intend, like, to me, I felt like it was kind of forced. Like every twist, every plot twist was kind of forced into it. It didn't really flow too well, and in the end, they kind of like just packed everything up together and then, try to sell it as a package. When it, you know what I'm saying? Like the story didn't flow very well, but it was very innovative in the way that it told the story through like all these like instant messaging and social messaging apps.
Yeah.
That probably saved them a ton of money too, huh? Didn't have to pay people for on-screen acting; they could just text each other. It was more of a story than anything else.
Right.
But there's so many ways that it could have gone wrong. I don't know how much spoilers were you going to go into this. I mean, we're discussing the films, right? So if we're discussing the films, then what do you guys think?
Well, I'll weigh in on a few things that are spoiler free. The first point is that I really like the actress who played John Cho's wife, Sarah Sohn. So I've known about her for some time. She's been in some other films. So she was briefly in Furious 7 and a few other TV shows. But I thought she was great. I thought she's a great actress. She portrayed the mother character very well. She seemed very natural on camera. So it's great, I think, that she was chosen for this role, and I certainly hope that this springboards her career into other opportunities. The second point that I want to talk about is that I see I'm reading up about the box office results for Searching. So it looks like Searching is doing really well in the box office for its second week, and apparently Sony is adding about 1,500 plus screens worldwide for Searching. So, and actually, Searching was the #1 movie in Korea this past weekend, which is really, really amazing, I think. For the fact that, John Cho is Korean, but, the whole movie's in English. So I'm pretty sure they subtitled the movie in, with Korean subtitles. But that's really awesome that that Korea came out for John Cho and kind of showed this support for this Korean American actor. So yeah, the point being is that the film is doing well in the box office as well. And yeah, it was a low budget film, so it's really doing well, and that's very, very encouraging. So I'm really looking forward to all the new projects that will come out of the success of this film and the others.
Yes. And to build up to that point and some points earlier, how I was talking about like how these films don't highlight the Asianness of the main characters. Instead, it was the merit of the characters to play the film. It should also tell like movie directors, the script writers that they don't need to cast Asian characters as Asian. I mean, Asian people as Asian characters. Like they don't need to write a script saying, "Oh, this person is specifically Asian, has to hit all the Asian stereotypes. This person can be like the main character, like he could play without any of the backdrop in the prerequisites." You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to politely disagree with you on that somewhat.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why. Because okay, so let's just use a CRA. Okay, so I told you about Searching, right? And why I think it kind of has like some stereotypical Asian things to it, like the whole study piano thing, where he's like, oh, she's Asian, she has to learn piano, and you know, and their parents are overbearing or something like that. They did kind of play that up a little bit, like the Asian model minority student like type, right? There is that. But for Crazy Rich Asians, like it wasn't really devoid of like stereotypes either, um because even Constance Wu's character, Rachel Chu, she was like, oh, she's an economics professor at NYU. Like, I mean, come on, dude. Like, and she's super smart, crazy smart Asians. You know what I mean? So there was a bit of that, um, and there was that trope, and there was also they also tried to play up a little bit of the yellow peril in a way, like at the beginning of the movie, they had there was that quote of there was that quote that Napoleon Bonaparte quote or something, that Napoleon quote where he's like, "Don't wake up China because she sleeps, or once she wakes up or whatever, she'll change the world," or something like that. And it basically, I don't know, like I felt like that wasn't really necessary to the narrative, but there was a bit of that, like the rich Asian tycoon stereotype, also. Like, I mean, and you do see that like in real life, like you have guys like Jack Ma, the real crazy rich Asian Jack Ma, but I wouldn't say it was completely devoid of stereotypes, or it didn't. I wouldn't say it was completely devoid of Asian stereotypes, or that it didn't like utilize or play off of Asian stereotypes at all, because they were there, but I don't feel like it was like mocking those stereotypes, because I mean, like Rachel Chu, she was an economics professor from NYU, but they didn't make it out like she was like some nerd or something like that. It wasn't like a negative thing. It was like it was a positive. The movie treated it as, that's why Nick Young liked her, because she was smart, and all that.
Well, you see, Paul, building up on what you just said, her being an economics professor is what attracted, I guess, the other main character to like her. It's not necessarily an Asian stereotype. It's actually, I think that builds more to the story than like something like Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey, where like a really rich guy or like a really supernatural person just decides to like someone just because.
Just
It doesn't make
random.
any sense. So
Hmm.
it has to be essential to the plot, which is great. It's not necessarily because she was Asian, but because it was essential to the plot that she has to be smart, or else they wouldn't have attracted, or they wouldn't have been attracted to each other.
So there you go, Asian girls. That's the message that the that
Be smart.
CRA. Yeah, be smart. Get a PhD in economics and teach at NYU if you want to get the attention of Prince Harry of Asia.
So anyway,
So,
That's what you get.
I have a couple of things just to add to that. So, I totally see Paul's issues with some of the stereotypes in Crazy Rich Asians and Searching. I mean, for sure, they're not even close to being perfect. But to Frank's point, I definitely think they're more positive than negative for Asian American
Hmm.
representation. I think the most cringy aspects of Crazy Rich Asians, spoiler alert, were Ken Jeong's little
Oh,
improv. It seems to be improv. I'm not sure what he's doing, but his
right.
jokes were like, it felt completely flat. I mean, I didn't think they were funny
Hmm.
at all, and just his character in general, like, just bothered me. Um, but I mean, we expect that from Ken Jeong, and the
Dude, can
stereotype. Yeah, so the stereotype of Searching, and the dad not really. I think the issue isn't really an overbearing father. It's just it's him not really connecting with his daughter because of what happened to his wife, right? Spoiler alert.
uh
And
right.
I guess that is a stereotype as well. But I think the reason why these two films are successful, Searching is top 5 in the box office despite having a really low budget, as John said, is because they're applicable to the masses. A white person, black person can watch both movies and relate to the main characters in both films. In Crazy Rich Asians, it's a chick flick, so it's intended for females, right? So they, a poor girl comes in, meets a really good looking, rich guy, and his parents hate her, but they want to win him over, win the family over. I mean, I think a lot of women um, have that fantasy of meeting someone handsome and rich and such, but having these obstacles that they overcome. And as you guys were talking about before, I mean, a lot of dramas are like that, like Korean dramas, but I think dramas in general have that kind of thing. And then in Searching, you have this horrible tragedy that happened to a family, and it's like how like what they do to overcome it. Again, anyone can kind of identify with that storyline as well. Um, so anyway, so bring it back to Crazy Rich Asians. I watched the film with a couple of girls, as friends, and right after the film, one of the girls turned to me and was like, "So, what do you think of the film as like from an Asian guy's perspective?" Because both those girls loved the movie coming out of it. And from an Asian guy's perspective, I definitely think it's more positive than negative. That's why I'm really supportive of the film. It's nowhere near perfect. I think it's maybe 60 something percent positive. There are definitely negatives. Like in Kim Jong, some of the characters weren't portrayed well. I had this discussion with someone else in the group actually. But I loved it from Asian guy's perspective because it had a human depiction of a variety of Asian guys. Like you have like the scumbag guy, you have a Kim Jong character, but you also have two characters that are very positive. I think Paul was mentioning this in the group chat as well, that you have like really good looking like shirtless Asian dudes, and I think any girl would love that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they like focused on his abs, and like that was
Right.
like I saw several articles talking about that, like ooh, abs for days.
Right. So,
Kind of funny.
and those two girls I watched it with said it was definitely a good image for Asian guys. So I think it's good overall.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with them. It was very good image for Asian guys. Ken Jeong was so annoying in that movie. He actually made Aquafina look good. Like usually I don't like Aquafina, but okay. So I said this about Aquafina before. Okay. I don't like her music or music videos or whatever, but I've seen some of her shows, and I've seen one of her shows where she was just talking with Asakira or something like that, and I always say that she makes a better like host or a better like on screen personality than like as a musician, in my humble opinion. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. But
Yeah,
oh
I actually thought she was
yeah,
hilarious, but
yeah, she was all right.
a lot of I think I read an article saying that she was appropriating black culture and such,
Oh yeah.
which I guess is kind of true. Um,
Uh huh.
but
The black
I,
scent.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I think I don't think there's anything wrong with what she was saying or anything. I don't think she was being offensive or anything. The fact of the matter is, because Asians are so marginalized in America, that we don't really have like a culture that most of us can identify with, right? So by her adapting that culture, it was just like as to be funny, I guess. Um, I don't know.
I mean,
No,
like, do
I
people get
completely
mad?
agree with you, Gary. I mean, I thought her character was hilarious. It wasn't, some of it was a little forced, but I think it's her first acting role, right? Cut her some slack.
Yeah.
She wasn't
Not
out
that.
there blasting Asian people. She wasn't out there portraying Asian stereotypes. Just trying to be funny, trying to make the film work. And to me, it worked. I enjoyed it. Could have been better, but I mean, come on. There's criticism to go all around.
Yeah, people are always gonna be critical. I mean, like I said, right? Like, people from the left and the right were criticizing. Always have like things to say about these movies. You can't please everybody. You can't please everybody. Oh, which speaking of which, Sarah Sohn, right? Sarah Sohn, like yeah, John talked about her, and I think he's right. Like she was like a really great actress, and I thought like she did really great in the movie. My only complaint was that they didn't give her as much screen time as I thought she deserved, because like she kind of passed away like at the beginning of the movie, right? And that's central to the plot, like her her dying, but I feel like because they didn't build enough of an emotional connection like with her, at the beginning of the movie, like they didn't really really delve into her, really like give her like a bunch of lines, rehumanize her, or we didn't really get to like attach ourselves, and connect with her like in that way, that I felt like um it took away from when she finally passed. Like it wasn't like the grief wasn't really there, like it normally would be, like had had we like connected with her, or had they like really really humanized her in that sense. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like yeah.
Go on. Sorry, go on.
Like I mean, like they didn't really like romanticize the relationship between her and John Cho, right? Like yeah, obviously they're married or whatever, but it was a very like like I don't know, like it didn't really feel like there was like a lot of intimacy there, if that makes sense.
I mean, I thought it was okay. I mean, my girlfriend cried, shed a tear. It was like when they were deleted mom coming home from the screen. I mean, it was like, I mean, I thought it was masterfully done. Very interesting way of portraying it. I mean, obviously you can't get across more human emotion than that, but it's the style of the movie, Obviously there could be more done. They could show more of it, but then they don't want to like drag out the intro too long. They want to show you the connection later on, like when they were like when John was like opening up the the files and seeing the random videos of the mother
Right.
teaching the kid how to cook and teaching the kid how to do things. Then he kind of shows more of the connection then instead of in the beginning.
You know what? Maybe it's because like I'm not a parent, so I can't really relate.
I guess.
That's probably why.
Have you guys seen that movie Up? Because
Yeah.
that actually, starred an Asian kid as well. But anyway, but the beginning of the film, I'm not sure if you guys have all seen it, but
yeah,
the beginning of the film was where like you had the old the old guy and it went through his life and about how like spoiler how he kind of lived life with his ex-wife, and then like it's
Right.
about how they spent their lives together, and then she ended up passing away. Like I honestly like cried in that film. It's one of the few movies I like couldn't stop crying because it was super sad, and that portion of the film was only 5 minutes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So as Frank was mentioning, I think it's it was really short as far as John and his wife's their scenes like in the beginning, but I think it was the director's point to have that, and I actually thought it was very touching. I mean, there were parts of it that I felt touched as well. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but they drop hints of her being in the story, like they have like flashbacks and video clips that I thought were like super sad. And no, I thought it was masterfully done, and that was their choice. But to Paul's point, they did not have any like love scenes or any romantic scenes in Searching, which I thought was kind of bizarre as well. I expected like some cuddling or maybe there was like a kiss or two, but I didn't feel like there was much romance in there. Which again, it wasn't intended, but from an Asian guy's perspective, we never see that. So I think that's just, I guess we're more heightened to that, to showing like a sexualized Asian male figure, and we didn't see that, which kind of sucked.
Well, not only that, Gary, but back to your point, like back to your point on Up, right? In that movie Up, and the first 5 minutes of that movie, and they showed a lot of that. They showed a lot of like them meeting in college and dating and getting married, and having, right? Didn't they show that in the movie?
That's true.
Like
I think it showed them being more intimate than Searching, which is a fair point.
And that's what I mean, and that really like hooked you into it. It really made you like connect and like get you hooked to the characters, right? And really help you like, empathize, like, kind of really feel the sadness. Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of like, I guess, intimate where he's like caressing her or touching her or kissing the wife. But however, you can tell they really loved each other by the way they talked to each other. they convey that without actually having to do it sexually. You understand what I'm saying? Like when they were running and they're like, "Oh, I'm so proud of my wife for running this fast," you know, even though she has cancer. And then they were running again, and then she wasn't able to keep up, and you could feel how like his heart was breaking, and you know how he was very concerned for his wife. It was just a different style, but I can see how you know, it's very concerning that they didn't even share a kiss. I don't think so. I don't even remember seeing them kissing.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I mean, I could be wrong. It could be in the beginning somewhere.
No,
in the
I don't.
flashback.
I don't remember that actually. John, do
Yeah.
you remember that at all, or what do you think?
Not that I can.
No.
Well,
Yeah, that's actually quite odd. That's a very good observation. I mean,
Yeah, like I don't recall like you know any kind of kissing or like a makeout scene or maybe even like them cuddling, right? Like in bed or something, or just having pillow talk. Like I didn't really.
no, they definitely had a lot of pillow
Yeah.
talk, but they didn't have any, you know, cuddling or kissing.
Right, right.
But then again, it's a PG-13 film. I don't know. Yeah.
Under PG-13. That's not.
True. Good criticism. Good point. Good point. You know, it could have been done better like that.
Or even
Yeah.
just showing like their first date, how they met, you know, first kiss, like that kind of thing, like those milestones. Yeah, I think that's what it was in Up, right? Is that they had like it
You're
featured
right.
the milestones of their relationship, you know.
That's true.
Mm.
That's true. You're right. I mean, that goes with the whole emasculation of Asian males, right? And I know. I actually talked to Frank about this, like, you know, in person a while ago. But going back to Crazy Rich Asians, like the reason, I don't know, like this is a criticism that a lot of people in the group had as well, that the main character, you know, he's supposed to be this like sexualized figure, like, you know, good looking and rich and all that stuff. Like he has to be half white. You know what I mean? I know, Frank, you know, you don't really think that's a big deal, but I don't know. Like, it's still annoying that like they have a half white dude as the main romantic lead, and his last name is not even an Asian last name. Like, I think Paul had a point in the group chat that, you know, he looks Southeast Asian, which I guess so, but you know that he's not full Asian, right? That bothered me. Like throughout the entire film, like I'm not gonna lie, that definitely was a source of contention. And especially because the family is supposed to be like this rich family from China of many generations, right? The likelihood of him being white at any like by any measure is like extremely low. So I don't know. That kind of bothered me.
I didn't actually see any white in him at all. I don't know. I don't really see it. Like I know I have a lot of Hapa friends. Okay, and I have family members that are Hapas, you know. So I know what it looks like you know, when someone has like white features, I know what Hapas look like. But he's definitely not one of those Hapas where it's very obvious that he's white. And I think like honestly, I think what makes him whiter though was his accent. Like his British accent like actually makes him like seem like, but just from looks alone, I didn't really see it.
So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and I do understand that it's a point. And, you know, as to the point about the British accent, I think it's Singapore. You know, everybody has a British accent. So, I mean,
actually, no. It's they have a Singlish. They call it the Singapore accent, or like the Singlish accent.
Well, I'm speaking as a non-Singaporean, so I probably have very, very ignorant.
Okay.
I just know they were a former British colony, and a lot of my friends who were from Singapore, they speak with a British English accent.
The upper class do.
Oh,
the upper class do.
Anyways, back to Gary's point on that. I see what he's saying, you know, and I do understand that's a big contention. But you know, it's diversity. For one, for two, on the list of things to be critical about the film I feel like that's very low. You got a lot of really good representation. You know, the main character didn't portray like negative stereotypes. He wasn't like a terrible person. He was genuinely a good person, genuinely did not want to be rich and did not want to use his wealth, did not want to put his girlfriend / fiance, you know, soon to be, through the whole thing that his mother went through, where his mother was like always, not good enough for his father. I feel like they could have played that trope a little better, but I feel like some of the storyline could have been edited a little bit. They could have ended it at the mahjong scene, where it was very strong ending, by the way, very strong ending. But on the list of egregious things, I feel like the actual ethnicity, as long as it was Asian and the guy can pass, wasn't that egregious.
Yeah,
Could have been better, but I thought the film overall wasn't impacted too much by it.
yeah, no, I definitely thought, like I said before, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, but I agree with you completely that it's definitely a more positive than negative film. Like that's without a doubt. But I asked one of the girls I watched the film with, like, could he pass for full Asian? Like, did you know that he? And she was like, yeah, I'm not sure what he was. I wasn't sure, but he didn't look, I guess maybe Chinese. So as Paul was saying, maybe he could look Southeast Asian. So that's possible. But the thing is, like, again, the guy came from China, right? His family's like generations through China. I don't know. That's just, again, maybe not a huge deal, but in my opinion. And then also, what's his name? Golding. He was also on a talk show recently, the Jimmy Fallon show, and either Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, but they were basically saying that they wish that Henry Golding could be the next James Bond, and that, like, he was a good looking dude and all this stuff, and like I thought that's great, but again, he doesn't have an Asian last name, and he doesn't look, to some people, full Asian, and because of just physical features alone, it's not as positive as if he were full Asian. That's just a perspective that some might have,
Yeah. You know what would be awesome if you actually play James Bond, because James Bond has always been played by a white British guy.
Right.
This would be a first. I mean, I support it. Hell, I
Absolutely. No, it's awesome. Yeah. But
all the Hong Kong people.
What's up?
All the Hong Kong people are gonna love it.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're always saying, like, I'm not Chinese, I'm British.
What's the storyline for 007? Like, the agent gets replaced every now and then. It's like part of the story or something.
Yeah, I think so.
No, that's not the story. I mean, it's there's only one James Bond, but there are multiple agents, and then they were just played by different actors. So they reboot the storyline with every new actor.
Oh, okay. Well, they're making, like, the Marvel superheroes. They're all, like, gender bending and race bending them. Oh, I don't see why it can't be done with James Bond, because James Bond being white British isn't essential to any of the storyline. So, is it? No.
Well, they can always change it. I mean, it's based on the novel, right?
Yeah.
The original novel from like the 50s or 60s.
Basically, all he's doing is spying on the commies, right? Just going to Russia and spying against them, or like going and fighting out like terrorists and bad guys.
Okay, so you get it maybe, but you guys may not like this plot. So I think, like, so technically, if they had to make it Asian James Bond, I could kind of see the story going like this, right? So Hong Kong was a former British colony. So let's say they got an agent from Hong Kong. He's a Honger, and so he's Asian, right? But the storyline is about him versus, like, the communists, right? The Chinese Communist Party. That's like the enemy. That's like the bad guy or whatever. More than likely, that's what they're gonna make it, like, about. Or, I mean, if they want to update it for today's world or whatever, they might make it about North Korea or China, because I think, like, right now, like, the anti-Chinese sentiment is ramping up in geopolitically speaking. So they might, I don't know if Hollywood Hollywood CIA is gonna do something like that, which I don't doubt that they would, but I don't know. What do you guys think of that? If that were to happen, if we have an Asian lead, but the bad guys are China, the PRC.
That's the thing. Like, why does it have to be so centered in Asia for the main character to be Asian? That's why I was saying like the movie Searching didn't like have a lot of emphasis on them being Korean. It was them being people, and the fact that they were Asian, they were able to portray other characters who can be essentially any character. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like we could place an Asian James Bond into a situation where it doesn't have to involve China or North Korea. It could be like, I don't know, in Europe somewhere.
That's not bad. I'd be down with that.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, that's like, you know, ideally, I agree with you. Ideally, that would be great. But you know, knowing how Hollywood works, knowing how, you know what I mean.
Yes, that
Being
brings
familiar
back
with
my
the Hollywood
point.
machine.
That brings
Yeah.
up my point to where like Searching and Crazy Rich Asians. I mean, it really didn't play the Asian stereotype tropes too much.
Nah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the main character didn't have to play into the stereotypes. So, but I know that you brought up some counterpoints against that. So
I guess it depends who makes the movie, right? Like, I mean, if it was like, if it was like, you know, if the studio behind Asian James Bond is like Warner Brothers, and the director is like Justin Lin or John M. Chu, they might do it some justice. You know, maybe they may not make it so stereotypical. You know, but you know, if if it's like the usual people who make those movies, I wouldn't I wouldn't be so optimistic.
yeah, but if it's the usual people who make the movies, then they wouldn't even cast an Asian person as the lead because they would just justify as being unmarketable.
Well, I
You know
mean,
what I'm saying?
yeah. Okay, so because of the Crazy Rich Asians thing, right? Like, so now Asians are bankable now. Asians are marketable. So
Yeah.
maybe they'll try it out now.
Yeah.
But they'll add some caveats to it, some strings, right? Like, oh, well, make it Asian, but the bad guys will be the Chinese. You know, and this is Hong Kong, British Hong Kong colony, something like that. Like that might be like one of the plots that they would do. Who knows? Like I don't know. I'm just kind of like making, like, you know, just like theoretically speaking.
Well, I'll say this: I don't think there will ever be a 100% perfect film that, you know, hits on all points. But if it's 60% good, 70% good, I think, you know, that's a win.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's why
I
we
think
put both films, you know, at the top of the group, is because we support it completely.
Yeah.
How would you grade Crazy Rich Asians and Searching, like, according to, like, how much percent would you say was good and how much percent would you say was bad? Like, what do you think? You give like a 70% good? 70% bad?
95% good, I guess. Because you can't have 100%
for
both
Crazy Rich
of them, I guess.
For both of them? Oh.
Yeah.
And maybe so 5% of it was bad, maybe, you felt?
I honestly felt like the storyline was great. Like
No. I think Paul's asking about like the portrayal of Asian Americans, not like how good the film was.
Even then, like it would be majority, like 95, high percentage, because they didn't like do stereotypes, like really bad stereotypes. They portray like both of them portray the main characters as being human. Like the lady, Constance, she was portrayed as a very strong lady who didn't want to like go on her feet and grovel to get the permission to marry, you know, Henry. You know, she was very strong and she wanted to let the mother know that she was leaving on her own accord, you know, after the mahjong scene and whatever. You know, that made her seem more real. It made it seem more than just a regular rom-com, you know? Because in a regular rom-com, you know, they don't have the main character standing up for themselves. They just kind of fall in love and then, you know, which I felt like they could have done better at the ending. But anyways, neither here nor there. They could have saved that for another movie.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, none of that is stereotypical. All of that is like, you know, people being real people. You know, it has nothing to do with them being Asian. You know, the airport scene was nothing being Asian. The mahjong scene could have been like replaced with them playing bridge. You know, would have been the same scene.
She wasn't a damsel in distress.
Yes, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see Frank's point, and again, I've said this multiple times before, but I think both films are more positive than negative. My grade for both of them, I said this before as well, that I think it's probably 60s, positive compared to some negative for, like, it's not perfect, right? So, have you guys seen Walking Dead at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Glenn in that show, I think, is the best representation of an Asian American male I've seen in media, like ever. Where like he's a badass, he kills zombies, he like has sex with a woman like in the show, which I've never seen before. He's a badass, and both of those films don't depict Asian guys in that sense, so it's not perfect from an Asian male's perspective, but definitely positive. These are huge steps for Asian Americans in general, and I think we should support both of them.
Yeah. And
What do you think, John? Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to the upcoming projects. So if the article's saying that movie producers are looking to fund new Asian related projects, then I'm definitely looking forward to the next year or so to what's going to come out of this. So like I'm sure in the future we'll have more discussions about other new stuff. So this is just kind of the beginning, and it's amazing that finally in the year 2018 we can finally discuss movies that have Asian leads and and see that on the big screen. So yeah, let's see where it goes, and it's still a little bit early, but we'll see where it goes. Did you guys see how I think Netflix is making like this TV series with John Cho now, with Alan Yang directing, and there's like a couple other projects that I saw, and then there's that movie with Henry Golding is coming out with that movie with Blake Lively, like a big Simple Favor, I think it's called.
Oh, I saw a poster for that movie. It was like some controversy where he's not even in the poster, but he's like one of the main characters.
He like plays a husband or something like that.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, so there's that, and apparently he got that role because he was filming Crazy Rich Asians at the same time, and then the director was like, well, I want to get somebody, and apparently he heard about him through Crazy Rich Asians as it was filming, so that's why the movies are coming out kind of at the same time, and this is only his second lead role in a movie. Wow. So we may want to watch that movie, that movie, A Simple Favor, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about that as well too.
Yeah, I kind of want to see that one too. I'm kind of curious how that one's gonna go.
I'm definitely curious as well.
What do you guys think of? Okay, so everybody's been talking about Henry Golding, and I see his career's going places. What about the other like hot Asian guys that were in CRA?
Yeah, so actually, so I actually looked into one of the main characters, Chris Pang. He's the husband of the. Are you guys familiar with this guy at all?
I mean, like he had the shower scene and the ab close up in the movie, like, and a lot of women like were really, really, really like really into that. Like it was just eye candy. It was just straight up eye candy, like for females, for chicks. It was just like this is a chick flick straight up. And yeah, so I was just wondering, like everything's about Chris Pang, but like everything's about like Henry Golding and stuff, but I haven't really heard much about Chris Pang. I'm not really sure.
So Chris Pang, I knew I've seen him from a prior film, but he's Australian. He's like Asian Australian, and he was in this Australian film called Tomorrow When the War Began, and he played. This is like a zombie movie, and it was made 10 or 8 years ago, and he plays a badass character who, I don't know, Asian guys like are portrayed well in zombie films for some reason, but like he's similar to Glenn in that he like kicks ass, kills a bunch of zombies, and he gets the girl as well. Like he actually gets the main, like the lead female in that
wow
movie. So I really was impressed by his acting and also at the awesome Asian male portrayal in that movie. And I knew I've seen him before, so I think he's someone to watch out for as well in the future. I mean, I hope he gets more good roles in the future.
So it's like that movie Mayhem, which is
not
also
sure.
Steven Yeun again. Mayhem, it's like the Steven Yeun,
Okay.
and he's. Do you know what I'm talking about? That movie?
No, it's like a zombie movie as well.
Kind of. It's like they get trapped in this like office building, and they go in like. It's kind of like a Hunger Games type scenario where they have to kill each other.
Oh, okay.
And like everybody kind of turned into some some kind of not exactly a zombie, but like they just go crazy and go like murdering sprees and stuff, and they have to kill like their coworkers, something like that, until like until the last man standing or something. But it was very it was kind of like that, like in the sense that you were saying that it's like a zombie film, and he gets the girl, and at the end it's very it's kind of like The Walking Dead in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, in that sense. I posted it like on the page like a while back. We were talking about it. Like it was kind of like it was kind of in the news for a little bit.
Huh.
Yeah. Mayhem. Mayhem.
Yeah. Cool. Check it out.
Thinking of zombie movies with Asians, have you guys seen Train to Busan?
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah. It's like Korean World War Z.
But that's more Asian as opposed to like Asian diaspora or Asian American.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Frank's point about how these two movies were really good because you could have taken the Asian aspect of it out, and it's still really good movies on their own, and it's applicable to anybody. Anyone of any ethnicity can identify with the characters in both movies.
I feel like that's how the movies are doing so well. And it shows that Asian people are marketable because they're not using their Asianness as, the selling point. They're using their skills, them as actors or, to sell the movie.
I will disagree with you on that, and here's why.
I know, you've been disagreeing.
No. I mean, like Crazy Rich Asians. I mean, it's literally in the title, Crazy Rich Asians. Like they're definitely selling the Asian aspect of it.
Yeah, they are. I think it was in Germany or something that they just removed Asians. It was like Crazy Rich or something.
Mexico?
No, it wasn't in Mexico. It was some European.
No, it was in Europe. It was like Italy and like Sweden or I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's because they tried to erase the Asians though. I think it was because like it just didn't translate well or it didn't sound right.
Oh, actually, I think Asian in those countries meant like South Asians as opposed to East Asians. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's why.
Well, what about
maybe like Arab? Yeah, they probably meant Arab or Indian, right?
Yeah, that could be.
But what about the UK?
Yeah.
They speak English in the UK, so I think. Oh, yeah.
No. In the UK, Asians are South Asians actually. They're like South Asians are the ones.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I wonder if in the UK they're like confused. Like I thought this movie was going to be about Indians. Why is it about a bunch of Chinese from Singapore? Oh, hey, that's one of our former colonies. Why does this Chinaman have a British accent? That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder what
Asian people were. Asians is in the title, but however, you could take this and then take it out of Singapore and place it into any city, and it would be the same story, though. You know what I'm saying? Rich guy meets poor, smart woman, falls in love, can't bring her to the family. But none of that was like, in Asian tradition, we have this. In Asian tradition, we have that. Or like,
you're saying that it's relatable.
Relatable.
You're saying that it's a universal human story, right? It's very relatable.
I think the biggest challenge, like most people have to face, is trying to make Asian culture relatable. They think Asian people are different, we're foreign, but I think our biggest thing that we have to do is show them that we're not foreign, we're the same. For the longest time, white people were the face of Americans, but now we're getting like black people into the mainstream, Hispanic people in the mainstream, and now it's time for us to get Asian people into the mainstream. You know what I'm saying? Does it come across?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, to bring it to your point, this is kind of an overarching thing, but in America, throughout its history, minorities have been dehumanized, and in the past few decades, African Americans have kind of come out of that, and people do identify blacks as American as well. And that's why Jeremy Lin was such a huge deal, was because NBA is a sport that America dominates in. It's known as like one of the main American sports. And for him to do well in that arena, people were like kind of confused and kind of shocked by it, right? But I think having him around was really important because he's Asian American. He speaks perfect English. His Chinese isn't that great, and yet he's like as American as any white person, any black person, right? And
Well, there was Yao Ming.
no, but he's Chinese though. Like Jeremy
Right.
Lin is born and raised in California. He's as American as it gets, right? And kind of similar with these movies. I mean, we all know Asians can act. I mean, we all know Asians have acting skill and can do well. I mean, we have YouTube and movies in Asia as well. But it's because Hollywood has dehumanized minorities and has marginalized Asians for the past 100 years or so. I mean, for a long time. And so us coming into the spotlight, I mean, we know we could do it. It's just that now Hollywood's giving us a chance. And the excuse that we can't make the money or, that we can't make money or that the actors aren't bankable is bullshit because they've grossed a ton of money now. And so that excuse is like out the window. Like if like in the future, if anyone else says Asian Americans aren't bankable, we just point to these two movies and be like, how about them,
Which is
huge.
That was an excuse.
Which is huge. So
yeah, I always knew that was an excuse. Like it proves it that now that it's an excuse, but I've always known that like Asians are not bankable. It was complete BS. Like no, it's not. You guys are lying.
I mean, let's be honest. It's basically these rich, like powerful white male executives at the board saying like, "Oh, screw these people." Like, it's basically just racism. Like they don't think we're shit. That's why they didn't cast us basically for however many decades.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. But there's also, I mean, there's so many things that where Asians have been making money off the Asian brand. Like, there's K-pop, K-dramas, like anime, Chinese restaurants, like sushi. Like you can't don't say you can't say that. Oh, Asian things don't sell because they sell like crazy.
No, they're talking about Asian actors.
What?
One of the most hilarious, actually, reasons for why Asians aren't good actors. I read this somewhere is that they said that like we have like slanted eyes or something, and that we can't convey emotion through our eyes. First of all, that's super racist, right? But they but they have like certain reasons for why we can't succeed. And it's obviously BS because they haven't even tried. And now that they've tried, like look what happens, right? So
it's almost like when they were rejecting so many Asian Americans from Harvard for being no leadership skills, unmarketable, unlikable. Remember that?
Yeah,
it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that whole we'll get to that
even meeting them. Without even meeting them, and then like they were comparing that to the actual interviews, and when they rejected a whole bunch of people for being like showing no signs of leadership, but then when they actually interviewed the people that they got, all of them displayed leadership qualifications and all that, which is weird.
Right.
I don't know, almost like that.
It's complete bullshit. We're going to talk about that in a future podcast. But anyway, speaking of which, is there anything else you guys want to add to the discussion?
Oh, okay. So remember we were talking about humanizing the cast, right, in Crazy Rich Asians, and how we're just like anybody else, right? Okay, so there was this thing I kind of noticed in that they were comparing they were comparing Crazy Rich Asians, or the story, the plot line, to he was called the Prince Harry of Asia, right? They constantly repeat, oh, he's like the Prince Harry of Asia. He's like the Prince Harry of Asia. Well, what's interesting was that that the royal wedding happened not too long ago, right? And there was also a similar backstory, or there was a similar story there too, right? Where that she wasn't She wasn't like a royal. She wasn't nobility, and the royal family was not exactly welcoming of her, right? So I feel like they were trying to tie it, or they're trying to prime people to think like in those terms. Like, this story is very similar to the royal wedding story, not just for Prince Harry, but also I think like Prince William. Well, was it Prince William that got married to Princess Di? Was that right? It was like Princess Di, and she was like a commoner, and the queen didn't like her,
Yeah, I think so.
right? And there was that whole thing there too, right? Where like the it's like it's the whole thing with like trying to win over the mother, um, and marrying into a rich um noble family, something like that. And so it's kind of like a similar story, and that's what I felt about the story too. Is that like they were trying to tie it into that, like, oh, like Asians we're just like you. We're similar in that sense, you know, just like the Cinderella story, like you're alluding to.
Yep.
But yeah, that's
Absolutely.
that's the only point I wanted to bring up or talk about.
Excellent point.
Mhm.
All right. On that note, Frank, John, anything else you want to add, or?
Nope, I'm good.
Nope. That's good.
All right. Paul, do you want to do the honors? Closing?
Oh, I don't know. Not really sure what to say. You guys can go ahead and do it. Not really sure.
All right. So anyway, so that wraps up our first podcast. We're going to have other podcasts in the future. We have the topics in the events page, so we're going to pin that as well. And we'll let you guys know the dates, and you can sign up and let us know if you're interested. That's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
Wait, hold on. The future topics, right? Asian American media, including Sierra. Oh. Hey, guys.
Yeah, I'm still here. Go on.
Oh, it's Gary. Oh. I guess somebody signed off. We haven't stopped broadcasting yet. I think that was Frank.
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh, okay.
We're ending
But
anyways.
anyway, to the viewers, and since we're still on, I just wanted to list up the topics real quick. Like Asian American media, including CRA and searching. I guess we covered that already.
Yeah, we covered that.
Podcast.
Yeah.
But the next one is affirmative action, Asian quotas, interracial relationships, history of Asian America, religion, sports, and Asians across America. I mean, there's a whole bunch of topics. We'll probably post that, and like you said, right, pin it to the group.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we can talk about actually is because it's actually really hot in the media right now and in politics is affirmative action quotas. So I think that should be our next discussion.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Cool.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well,
alrighty.
So let me just go ahead and stop the broadcast then.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Make sure to stay tuned and check us out in our next podcast. Okay. Bye.